What if my shop had like 100 products and there were tons of different categories and loads of different attributes and price ranges? You can make it easier for your customers or your potential clients or people who are viewing your website to search for certain products. Now, WordPress does give you some inbuilt widgets that Elementor provide for you, but I really don't recommend using them. If I minimize everything on the sidebar until I get to WordPress, which is the most basic of widgets, you will see widgets down here for product search, filter products by price, product categories, product list, filter products by attribute. But I just want to show you how they're not the most attractive to use. Above the shop, I'm going to start dropping some of them in. So I've added in filter products by price, filter products by attribute, and we'll add in product categories as well. Then I'm going to click update. And this is what I see on the shop page now. And you might look at it and go, well, that's kind of okay because I now have my attributes. You could add in a title in there. We've got our categories and we got our price. The trouble is that they don't always work very well, especially with the loop grid. If you had the standard archive products or the products widget, you could add this. But if I was to now go over and click commercial, remembering that I've got 6 products here, look, none of them changed. And if I go back to my loop grid where I've changed the source to be current query, it still doesn't do anything. So even though you have these inbuilt widgets, I strongly recommend you do not use them. Instead, I recommend you use the inbuilt or the new Elementor Taxonomy widget. To use the Elementor Taxonomy widget, you got to make sure that you've gone over to Elementor in WordPress, gone to features, scroll down until you get to taxonomy filter and make sure that is active. Inside of your shop template, do a search for tax and you will see taxonomy filter. I'm going to add the taxonomy filter to the container that contains the loop grid. I'm just going to pick it up and drop it above like that. And it will now ask you to choose a loop grid. So if you've got multiple loop grids on your page, maybe you're applying different styles. Maybe you've got posts and products on the same page, or maybe you're deciding to have different loop grids for different categories. So you might have a category for t-shirts, then you're going to have a completely different looking loop grid for jeans, for instance. You just need to make sure that this filter is touching the correct one. If we go to this drop down, it should say loop grid 1 because we only have 1 at the moment. If, however, there is an instance where you click and when you do the drop down, there is nothing there, hit update, refresh the entire page, okay? Make sure you're back in your template and it should appear because sometimes it doesn't always add it. If you ever have that issue, refresh the page. Now I get to select what I want to use as a taxonomy. So I've got the option of using the categories, but I can also use my attribute and it is stating it there for me, property type and service type. Let's go for categories first. And I will now see makeover, samples, plans and redesign. And I click samples, I will get my 2 sample categories appear. If I go for plans, I will get plans redesign because the word plans is still contained within there. What if I want to have the option where I can have samples and plans? When we go back over to our template, I'm going to go to settings and enable multiple selection. So it can be and or. So I'm going to go with or. So you can have samples and plans visible. I mean, it all depends on your logic. Do you want to go with and? So it's got to be sample and plans or sample or logic. If I show the empty items, then uncategorized will appear, which I really don't want. If some of these had a subchild and I clicked it, it would then show it. So if inside of makeover, I had another subchild like makeover big room or makeover small room, it would show those. Do I want to have the all button? So if I enable that, you can see all. If I hide it, the all has disappeared and I could change the wording as well. I'm going to leave that as all. What's also really cool is how we can change the positioning of this. So I can go and put it in the center. I can put it at the end. I can even stretch it. So it's taken up the full width now of my estate, but it's now added almost equal spacing between them. What about if we want to make it vertical? And again, we can align it. If you don't like the gaps, go to style and we can change the space between the items. In the style tab, we can do so much more with it. So how about when you hover, you get a different color? We can even stylize these to look like pills or boxes. So let's go to border type. We'll call it solid. I'm going to add in a border width of 1. I'll make it be a gray color. And let's just space the items out a little bit. I'm going to make your typography font be white when you're active, and the background color, I'm going to make it be purple, like that. Let's now duplicate that. And this time, instead of product categories, I'm going to select property type. And I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm now going to select service type. This is quite versatile, and you can make the borders be more rounded if you want. You know, you can do quite a lot with this. You could even pop them in line if you want, because we are using a row. But you could also be a little bit clever. So at the moment on our shop template, everything sits within this one container. Into this container, let's add in 2 child containers. Ensure that both of them are a full width, and we're going to set the first one to be 20% and the second one to be full width again, and this time it's going to be 75%. Remember, if you get them to match 100%, because of the amount of gaps you have in the column and row, they might move over. You can obviously mess around with that, but I say just take away a bit of a percentage. So we've got 20% and we've got 75%. I'm going to pick the loop grid up and pop it into the second child container. And into my first child container, I'm going to pop in all of my taxonomy filters. So we'll use the navigator just to drop them in. I could, if I want, click them and make them be vertical, which could make it quite long. I mean, don't forget, you can reduce the size. So I'm going to reduce that to be a 10. So a bit more closer together. I could also go in and get rid of the padding within the button. So if you reduce that, they are now really small. But I could click here and we might go with a 5. So now they're a bit more miniature. But you could also just go back to your content and put it as horizontal, and it will now nicely wrap. Now I'm going to copy that and paste the style over all of the other ones. And I'm going to add in a bit of a gap like that. And I've made the gaps for my loop grid layout in terms of the column and the row now be 25 instead of 50. So we now have a sidebar. And if I pick samples, I'll get my 2 sample. If I pick online virtual, I get the sample report. If I take that off and go for site visit, I get the sample pack. However, there is a drawback to using these taxonomy filters. So if I was to now go and hit site visit, and then I go and do makeover, it's brought back the plans because this does include a site visit, but I haven't selected that category. Can you see there, planned? I didn't select it. Look, it's unselected, but that one has come through. And that's because it's applying the all logical combination throughout. So even though I don't mind it being there per category, it then applies it to every single taxonomy as well. For simplicity, the taxonomy filter is really, really good. And where you have a simple category or an attribute system, it can work for you. You could even have colors on here, for instance, but you'll have the labels. What you won't have is the colored dots. What you also don't have is a filter for the price range. Maybe you want to show that. So there are quite a bit you are missing out on. However, there are other plugins that you should consider, and I'm going to show you both of them, whereby you could get a whole lot more better attribute filtering for your shop. Rather than using Elementor's own taxonomy filter, we're going to use a free plugin called Themify. Go to your WordPress dashboard, go to add plugins, do a search for Themify, and you will find it for free over here. Go and install and activate that. The plugin works by allowing you to build your own widget list of what kind of filters you want to show. And then you will drop in a short code and you can have a different version for your desktop or your mobile. What's really versatile about this is that it's going to allow you to do a whole lot more than the taxonomy filter. Inside of your WordPress dashboard, you'll see product filters. Once you've clicked into that, go and click add new and give it a title. I'm going to call this desktop filters, and then decide on your layout. Now we've already got a sidebar or another container that we're going to drop our filter into. So I'm going to go with the vertical layout. You could go for the horizontal as well. The menu system here is really intuitive. Do not show a field if it's empty, hide the product sorting, hide the result product count. So if you do want to show them, untick that. If you do want to hide the product sorting, go and click that as well. But a lot of these you are going to leave blank. I'm going to add a reset button at the bottom and I'm going to change it to be clear filters. I'm going to change my logical relationship to be and. It's always a good idea to stay on the same page with your results. If you want to go to a different page, do that, but then there might be like a flash and a reload and that might confuse some of your users. Let's now go and add in our items, and we do have a range here. We got category, we got the price, we got the attribute for product type and the attribute for service type. I'm going to drop in category, and there's a range of options available for you. Again, you get the logical combination here with or and inside. Here, I would always go for the or because I want people to have the option to pick multiple items if they want. You can include child's categories as well. You can decide if you're going to show the product count. You can even have a completely separate title. So maybe you don't want to call it category when it shows the label, so you might go and change it. I'm going to leave it as it is. You can also define the layout. So even though we are going for a vertical layout, the actual category could be a vertical as well, or a horizontal, or it could be split over columns. So you could literally have 2 columns. I mean, that works really well if you know you've got loads of items and you want to kind of just show them in a bit more of a consistent manner. Whereas horizontal, they are going to be offsetting or almost not offsetting, like a mosaic approach. Do you want to exclude or include certain terms? And I will exclude the uncategorized category. Now, you do need to put in the actual post ID. So if you go back to product categories and you hover over uncategorized, when you hover over it, you should see at the bottom a post ID which says ID 29. Can you see it at the bottom there? You got lots of text, but it says ID equals 29. So I'm going to go back over to my filter and I'm going to say exclude terms 29. Technically, it shouldn't be shown over here if the field is empty, but I like to just make sure I've definitely excluded it. Let's go and hit save. Now I'm going to add in the product type. I'm not going to make any changes, to be honest, but you can see the options that you have available. Of course, you could also go for checkbox, links, radio, drop down, multi-select as well. So there's a range of options here. I mean, let's just turn this into a radio so you get to see the differences. Let's go and add in the product service type. And I'm going to make this one be a drop down. Again, just so that you can see the range of options. And then the final one we'll drop in is the price. And I'll just pop it underneath the category. We're going to have it as a slider or a range. The slider works quite well. And I'm going to change the steps to be 10 because, you know, I think if you go with 0.01 or whatever, that's a little bit quite small. And I think 10 in terms of the pricing range we got here is much better. Let's go and hit save. We will now see our desktop filter and we have a shortcode. I'm just going to pick that up. I've removed the taxonomy filters that were in here. Do a search for shortcode, grab the shortcode widget and drop it in. And into here, we're going to paste in that shortcode. If you've forgotten it or you didn't copy and paste it, that's okay. Just go back to product filters and copy it. Now, don't be surprised if you don't actually see anything on here. It's not until you actually go and preview your shop. And here's our shop page with the filters and we can see the different styles kick in. We've got the checkbox, we've got the price range or the slider. We've got our property types as a radio button and we have our service types as a drop down. So I could quite easily go over and say, let's look at the samples and that will change. And if I pick commercial, only one of them should be visible, which is the sample pack. Whereas before, when you're using the taxonomy filter, it would have shown me other items that are commercial as well, but they no longer fit the sample. So if I was to now go and pick makeover, you can see makeover redesign has come out as well. However, we're still maintaining the logic of the makeover and samples, and they are both commercial. So if I go and click all, you're going to get other items. Here there are 4 because it's still maintaining the logic. If you go back to your product filter, you can go back in and edit and you may decide to go for a horizontal. And this is where you could have a different look for your mobile as well. So if you wanted to create a horizontal one for the mobile, for instance, or even vertical or whatever you did, you would create another menu. You don't have the option to duplicate over here, so you would have to start from scratch. So add new, call it mobile filter, go and add in your filters. And then when you get to your shop or your template, make sure you've clicked on the relevant shortcode, which is what we have here. Go to the advanced tab, go to responsive, and then hide out what should or should not be visible on each responsive device. So if this one is for the desktop, you might hide it for the tablet and mobile. And then for the tablet and mobile, I might have a completely different one. What's also really good is that on the mobile one, you may decide you're not going to show everything. So you may decide that, you know what, we're not going to have the slider because, you know, sometimes on the mobile, some people might not like that. And you may change the options as well, maybe to make it slimmer and smaller. Rather than having the checkbox for the category, you're now going to have the drop down, or you may have a multi-select. It's entirely up to you, but you get so much freedom to what you can do. The only drawback to using this is the styling options because you are really limited. You could use free plugins like Site Origin CSS to identify the items, and then you can modify the color, the weighting, the spacing, and all of that. It is a little bit fiddly. That being said, it is a free plugin and you do get a wide range of options. And for instance, if I go and shrink this down to be 0 to 80, the sample pack and the sample report, which is free, show up. So it is much better than what you could do with a taxonomy filter. However, you do have to do a bit of styling with CSS. Now I'm going to go and discuss my preferred option for filtering, which is with the Gridbuilder plugin. When it comes to WordPress filtering, whether it's for your blog or your products like your WooCommerce store, the Gridbuilder plugin is exceptional at what it does. And it is a premium plugin. It's not free. You are going to have to pay for it. There's the prices per year. But what you can do with this is amazing. So I'm going to use that for my WooCommerce filtering. So inside of plugins and add plugins, I'm going to install the Gridbuilder plugin, and I'm also going to install the add-on, which is Elementor. The Elementor add-on for Gridbuilder you get for free once you've got a proper license. Let's go and add those in. Once you've got them both activated, go over to your WordPress dashboard, go to Gridbuilder and go and click Dashboard. There's a lot that you can do with the Gridbuilder, but we're just going to focus on the facets, which is the fancy name for filters. I'm going to click create a facet and I'm going to give it a title. And the first thing we're going to go for is our categories. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it below in the facet title. Don't worry about the facet slug. It already populates it for you, but you could go in and modify if you want. But I would say don't bother. Then go to behavior. And now we get to decide what it is. Well, basically it's a filter and we have a range of options here. Again, I'm going to show you some different types so you get used to it. I'm just going to go for checkbox for now. We're going to use the taxonomy data source, and inside of the taxonomy, click it and we're going to go for product categories. You do have a range here. And because we are using product attributes, we got property type and service type here as well. I do want to exclude the uncategorized, so I'm going to go to exclude terms, type uncat, and I can see it there, and we are now going to exclude that. There are 0 products assigned to that, but I just want to make sure it definitely does not show. What about my logical combination? So can you pick 2 different products? Well, yeah, I don't mind that. I don't have any children to show, so I'm going to disable that, but if I did, you would enable it. Do I want to show the empty choices? I don't think I do. You do have a range of sorting orders like choice count, choice name. I'm actually just going to go for term order and we're going to go for ascending. And believe it or not, that's it. We're just going to hit save changes. So if I go back over to my shop template and I do a search for facet, there it is. I'm going to drop that in. I'm going to pick from my list of facets that are available. Well, I only have category at the moment. And this is going to touch this particular loop grid. Now, if you had maybe more than one loop grid visible on your actual page and you weren't sure which one to select, just go and click on your loop grid and you will see a new tab called WP Grid Builder. You click that and it will actually give you the ID so you know which one you're touching. When I click samples, you can see what it's done there. And here's what's really cool. Unlike with Themify where there was a lot more effort required, go to settings, go to color schemes. We can now start to modify that. So I'm going to change my accent color to be purple instead. And if I click samples now, we'll get the purple color kick in. If I go back over to my shop template, I can actually stylize here as well. So if I go to checkbox and we go to where it says checked, I may decide I want the background color to be completely different. So even though I've set my settings to be purple, I may go for a brown color and you can see it working there. So let's go back over to our facet, create a facet. I'm going to call it price and paste down here. We're going to go to behavior. We're going to go for range slider. Now, when you come to the data source and you start looking at taxonomies, you're going to be looking for price and you're not going to find it. But what you need to do is go to custom field, just put it on the post field, go to the custom field over here and just start typing in price and you will then see the price and you can go for the sell price or the regular price. I would just go for the normal price field, enter in a field name, and I'm going to call it price. And I'm going to change my interval to be 10 because of the prices that we've got in there. And then I'm going to hit save changes. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm now going to go and pick price. And you will see that it has now appeared. I can go over to my style for this. I can go to my range setting, go to my track, and change the color of that. So when we look at our shop now, if I was to shrink this down to be, say, 0 to 80, I'm going to see the products that fit within that range. And if I was to now go and hit plans, it will only show me items that fit that criteria. So got to be between 59 and 80. And it has to be a plan, which is what the category is over here. Let's go and add in a few more. Let's create a facet. Product type, we're going to go for behavior. This one will just be a radio. We'll set the taxonomy to be the product type. We'll get rid of the children and we'll get rid of the empty choices and we'll leave it at that. Now you will notice there was the color picture option as well. So if our attributes had like colors in, believe it or not, but Gridbuilder would automatically assign those colors for you. If you've got red, green, blue, white, yellow, it will assign them. So when you get the radios, rather than just getting a circle, you'll actually get the colors as well. That is why it's really, really good and amazing. Let's add in the service type as well. We add the name, we add the title, we go to behavior. I'm going to make this be a drop down. We're going to set the taxonomy to be the service type. I will allow multiple selection. And then the final one I'm going to add is just going to be called sort. So we drop that into the title, we go to behavior, and instead of using it as a filter now, we're just going to use sort. So let's click that, price low to high, scroll down until you get to custom field. It's going to be a numeric custom field. The direction is ascending. And the field over here, I'm just going to start typing in price, and there we have WC price. So I will pick that. I will add in another option. We'll go price high to low. Again, we'll do a numeric custom field. This time it will be in descending, and again, I will type price. Now I'm only going to do it for those two at the moment. You could do it in terms of name order as well, and other options, but I'm just going for the price ones for now. And the final field will be a reset button. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to type in reset, go to behavior, pick reset. It will now reset all of the facets, or you could have set it to only reset some of them, and we'll hit save changes. Back over to our shop template, we've got quite a lot to add now, so let's go and duplicate all of these. Before I modify this, let's just change the style of this a little bit to make it fit a bit better. I'm going to go over to my container here, and I'm going to make this be 25%, and the container that was below, I'm going to make 70, just so they fit a little bit better. I'll then go to my category facet, go to style, go to list, and there will be an option for horizontal or vertical. The symbols are missing. There's a little bit of a bug here. If I hit horizontal, that goes horizontal. The price one will leave as it is. The third facet we will change to be product type. The fourth one we will change to be service type. And the final one down here, I'm going to go for reset. Now, if you don't like the titles being there, a simple thing you could do is just go into the title and go and set it to be a 0. And then if you go to the margin and apply some minors, you can actually shrink it down as well like that. And don't forget, you do have lots of styling options. So if you want to stretch it or put it over on the left-hand side, or just change the background color, you can do that. I've made a duplicate of the category facet, and we're now going to pop that above the loop grid, and we're going to use the sort facet that we created. So let's pick that up and drop it above the loop grid. I will then pick sort. I'm going to get rid of the title, go to my margin and shrink that down, go to my width, make it custom, and I'm going to shrink it as well. And for the align self, put it on the end. And just to tidy things up, I'm going to go to this entire container and I'm going to add in some padding just to bring everything down. So when we view the shop now, I could rearrange the order, which is what it does for us. I can filter by price. I could filter by product type. I could maybe go and click makeover. So now I should get just one because of the logical combinations. I can take those all off. I could even pick a service type, and I'm showing you the multi-select drop down over here because it's multi-select, or I could just reset all the filters as well. The grid builder doesn't take that long for you to use and build, and you can really make it work for you. And don't forget, you're dropping in facets. So if you want to have some of them responsibly hidden on different devices, or maybe even if you want to duplicate a filter and then on the mobile, you're going to have a completely different looking style, you could do that. Yes, it is a premium plugin, but compared to Themify, the standard taxonomy filter, or what you get out the box with WordPress and their very bog standard basic filtering system, which doesn't always work very well or look good at all, Gridbuilder is definitely one I would recommend you use if you're going to add filtering in for your e-commerce, WooCommerce, WordPress shop website.